the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing parabolic movement and bubble-like activity going on in a brand new sector within the stock market. And this is all related to space and two specific companies. And I'm going to break down some incredibly fascinating details and similarities that are hopefully going to make you some money on space.
I'm talking about opening space up to business, to private enterprise, opening space up to commerce and experimentation and development. Why? To improve the quality of life on Earth.
Obviously, I am talking about two specific companies. One of those companies being Tesla, which is going parabolic in its stock activity, along with Virgin Galactic, which has been taking off into the stratosphere because both these companies are on the cusp of new technology and space travel. Now, if we take these two charts and we lay them over top of each other, they are following almost the exact same lineup of volume and trading activity, which makes it seem like we might be headed into bubble territory.
Drop it.
Welcome back, my passive income investors, alike to the parabolic bubble we are headed into with this sector of the market in 2020. And that's right, I'm talking about two specific companies here, Virgin Galactic and one of the companies I own, which is Tesla. And these two companies are sharing some extreme similarities that are showing signs of bubble territory, pushing into the stratosphere of what we call unicorns in the stock market. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little deeper about Virgin Galactic's numbers. I'm going to show you some underlying similarities between Tesla and Virgin Galactic so you can decide if these companies are undervalued or if they're heading into a parabolic spike over the next few months, which is why I'm going to be making some personal price predictions. But ladies, gentlemen, without any more words, let's just get right into this, starting with Virgin Galactic. The first thing that I like to do before we get into any of the specific sales numbers is how much am I paying for this company at its current valuation as of today. And the way I value this is I would take a look at the balance sheet. And what I would do is scroll down till we see total assets. Now, this is $704 million in total assets. So what we do is we minus it from the liabilities, which we currently only have $24 million in liabilities, leaving us with a very healthy $675 million if they had to liquidate everything they had today without making any more sales. The next thing I'll do, we head over to the financials here, where we can take a look at how much they're spending and how much they're making. And as of 2018, wow, we've only made $285 million at the cost of $138 million. That is not good for a balance sheet, but this is a brand new company. But if we take these numbers and we take a look at the underlying market capitalization, which is what we're paying for the entire company, if we had to buy it all today, and we can see we are paying $3.74 billion for a company that barely does $2 million in revenue, is bleeding hundreds of millions of dollars, but with the underlying value of the company being worth $600 million, well, that gives us basically from the underlying assets, we are paying about 6 times what it's worth with hardly any cash flow. But don't worry, I'm going to show you their future growth here in a sec. I just want to point out some base comparisons here so we can try and get a grasp on what these companies might be worth before we start making price predictions. So moving into Tesla, one of my favorite companies, which I own over $10,000 in, which I'll explain more about in a little bit. Same deal. Let's go into the balance sheet of Tesla and let's take a look at the current underlying total assets. We are looking at $29.7 billion in assets minus the $23.9 billion in liabilities, and I'm going to round this up to 24 billion, and we're just going to round this up to make this easy to 30. So we're looking at about $6 to $7 billion in underlying assets as it stands today. With the financials and income, we're talking revenue and earnings, just like on Virgin Galactic. We can see Tesla's only been bleeding, and again, these numbers are much more larger, about 976 million, with a total revenue though of 21 billion dollars. So they are spending an incredible amount of money to start building and getting into their future. And if we compare that to the market cap they sit at of over $100 billion, guys, well, you have to ask yourself, is it worth that for the 20 billion in revenue with future earnings potential? We can see we're paying a way higher premium than we are with, say, Virgin Galactic. But if we're buying into revenues and future cash flow, well, Tesla's going to smash it out of the water. But where the funny similarities come into fruition here is when we take a look at the volume. These are analytics that are basically proving parabolic movements and where these stocks might be headed in the short term. As we can see, the average volume on Tesla is 11.8 million. Yet today we're getting 26 million shares traded. And same with Virgin Galactic, almost the even amount of shares traded just today, by the way, and the average volume is only 4 million. So what we're looking at here is the next big movement in a company and within a sector, which is related to space and the future of cars and energy. So if we compare these to other parabolic movements that have happened over the last couple of years, let's compare it to something like Canopy Growth Corp. When this company started taking off into its parabolic movements, starting in late 3 quarters into 2017, it lasted for just over 2 years with a max height. We got all the way up to 631%. This unicorn right here, that is the height that it went to before it started falling off, into late 2019. And if we compare it to even say Bitcoin went through something extremely similar, but the parabolic movement happened so much faster that we can see that from the time it started rallying in, mid 2017, reached its peak just after 2018, was still a 700% return within a year. Now, if the history rhymes at all, and we compare what's going on here now with these crazy volumes going within these stocks, we can see that we are only 2 months in to these parabolic movements, and we've only seen, 50 to 100% returns. We can see we're really only looking at the first month of what could be a unicorn moment within this sector. But I want to share with you really quickly some of the underlying numbers on Virgin Galactic people don't tend to look at, which is total reservations of 600, equaling a deposit value of 80 million. Which is going to be 1,565 flights flown by 2023. So we're only just getting started now, which is the equivalent of 590 million, again, by 2023 in total revenue, with an EBITDA of, I think, about $274 million, which is hard to gauge in the value of the current market cap because there is more competition out there than people are currently aware of. There are a lot of people competing for space flight to get up there to not only, experiment mining on the moon, but also do more tourist attractive stuff. So then how do we predict where these companies are going? Well, the only thing that I could predict on is the hype wave that we are currently going into, as we did with the MJ sector and Bitcoin. And we don't know where this comes out on the other end on the balance sheet. So in the meantime, these are what we call bubbles. So yes, these things are headed into what we call bubble territory because the underlying assets in the balance sheet isn't what's moving these stock prices. It's purely based off hype and future potential, which burns out after a while, and then these companies have to prove their market caps. The problem with this happening is all of the future potential is now getting priced into the market cap, which makes it very hard to gauge, and that means the company has to do 2 or 3 times as much as it already had to prove what it already is worth, which I hope you can understand makes this a very challenging thing to play with them. But where we're going to make real money on these companies is basically by just being within these crazy parabolic movements, because I don't think they happen overnight. A lot of people bailed ship on Tesla already, but I think in the next 3 to 6 months, we could see Tesla reach anywhere from the mid 600s to 700s, and we could be looking at space here hit maybe up to even to the 30s in the next few months. And I think that's what we're going to see happen, and I'm going to hold on to this. And when I get the feeling that I should be exiting some of my position in Tesla off the table, as many of you know, I've been loading the boat on Tesla, and I've got about $10,000 to $11,000 in USDs at the current valuation point. But if this thing gets to a point where I'm uncomfortable and I feel like it's going to take Tesla a lot more work to prove the numbers, I will leverage down in this position. But in the meantime, I think getting out of this early and not picking up the steam that is currently coming, considering we don't have any bad news in the market, there's nothing really going on, and the only time these companies, these growth prospects do really poorly is if we head into a recession or a crash, which is completely unpredictable, but the markets seem to be fairly stable and everything's going up, which is also going to help push these things a lot higher. So yes, you can see if you want to head on over to the forums, listen to the jokes, you guys will get a little bit of a chuckle out of things going on in here. And I think this is where most of the fun's going to be for me over the next couple months within these stocks. But in these parabolic movement, guys, you just kind of got to ride them if you're already in them, and then just gauge it out as we go, because I could see Tesla doing an easy pullback at some point back into the 400 range if they don't prove a lot within this year. But if you guys want, you can always just watch me ride the hype train with my personal Tesla position. And what I'm going to do, if you guys want, I'll leave the link in the description below, but I'm going to be making another video today explaining to you why I bought Tesla, how this position is actually free. This is completely 100% free money to me, and I'm going to explain to you how I got my Tesla shares for free and how it's making me money. pretty much tax-free. So this is some fascinating stuff. I'm going to break all of that down in the next video, so check it out in the description below, or the link will be in the comment section. And if you guys have any questions, I'd love to know what you personally think about all of this. Do you think we're going to be heading into a bubble? How long do you think the bubble's going to last? Do you think it's going to pop early, or do you think it's going to be like Bitcoin in the MJ sector, where we're going to see a 6-month rally, maybe into even Tesla pushing the $800 to $1,000 range? These are really ballsy predictions, and I'd love to know what you think. So slap a like, stay cool, stay awesome. I look forward to chatting to y'all real soon.